Namaskar and welcome to the ESG Talk series. For a happier, healthier and a sustainable planet Earth, ESG, that's environmental, social and governance factors play an important role. In today's edition, we focus on natural resource accounting. And to help us understand this concept better, please welcome CA Ram Mohan Johri. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Mr. Johri is an Indian Audit and Account Service Officer, 1989 batch, who's presently working in the Office of Comptroller and Auditor General of India as Additional Deputy CAG. Sir, let me begin by asking you, why is measurement of natural resources important?
The reason is that measurement is the first step towards management of the resources. I'll try to take an analogy. Like we all stay in the NCT of Delhi, the air quality is a matter of concern for all of us.
Yes.
We all knew that air quality is bad, but if someone says how bad, what you need to do, it was not possible to give a concrete answer. But now a air quality index has come in and there is a graded response action plan. When it reaches a particular level, certain steps are taken to see that it comes within the manageable limits. So if we wanted to change the air quality, the first step was measuring it and knowing what is the extent. So that is how, if you want to manage your resources, the best way is to know how much you have, what is your rate of use, so that you can plan their use for the future generations also.
So with natural resource accounting, we can now measure natural resources and the rate of consumption. So it will help us to know whether they are sustainable or perhaps on the verge of extinction.
True. You are absolutely right. That's the main point. And the other thing is that if you know that when they are going to be exhausted, that will give you sufficient time to manage the alternatives. Think in terms of how best they can be acquired so that there is no disruption. That like iron and steel industry is there. If we know what is our rate of consumption when it is going to exhaust, then we would know that how will the industry run when the iron ore is exhausted. So what are the alternate resources? How will we manage in that case? That we can start planning right now.
So Mr. Johri, what is the risk if we do not measure natural resources?
Although environment by nature is quite regenerative, but certain part of the environment gets lost forever. And in fact, now there is a concept of green GDP. The concept says that the value of goods and services, we have to reduce the cost which is used to make it, to see whether really we are progressing or not. That's the real GDP. So if we in the process spoil the environment and make things unsustainable, then perhaps that economic development does not have much meaning. So the risk is that if we do not measure it, we will never be in a position to manage it better, and our future generations will have to pay the cost for it.
Right. So the choice is between sustainability or extinction. Let's listen in to Frankie the dinosaur as he addresses the United Nations.
You okay? You need a minute? Cool. Okay. Listen up, people. I know a thing or two about extinction. And let me tell you, and you'd kind of think this would be obvious, going extinct is a bad thing. And driving yourselves extinct? In 70 million years, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. At least we had an asteroid. What's your excuse? You're headed for a climate disaster, and yet every year governments spend hundreds of billions of public funds on fossil fuel subsidies. Imagine if we had spent hundreds of billions per year subsidizing giant meteors. That's what you're doing right now. Think of all the other things you could do with that money. Around the world, people are living in poverty. Don't you think helping them would make more sense than, I don't know, paying for the demise of your entire species? Let me be real for a second. You've got a huge opportunity right now. As you rebuild your economies and bounce back from this pandemic, this is humanity's big chance. So here's my wild idea. Don't choose extinction. Save your species before it's too late. It's time for you humans to stop making excuses and start making changes. Thank you.
So humanity has to stop making excuses and start making changes. A very thought-provoking and a heartwarming message there.
True, that's very nice. The reason why this dinosaur thing was there is because dinosaurs have become extinct. And the reason for their getting extinct was that they could not withstand the climate change. The rate at which we are doing things in the economic development, in the process we are harming the climate. Now the global warming has become a topic and it is the talk of the town. And in fact, there are specific targets that we have to limit the rise in temperature up to a certain level. That can only be there when we are able to measure that what is the level now, what is the level which is sustainable, and will it be possible to live in that temperature in case it is not managed at this point of time.
Let's listen into the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji on sustainability.
पहला, भारत 2030 तक अपनी नॉन फोसिल एनर्जी कैपेसिटी को 500 गीगावाट तक पहुंचाएगा। दूसरा, भारत 2030 तक अपनी 50% एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट्स रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी से पूरी करेगा। तीसरा, भारत अब से लेकर 2030 तक के कुल प्रोजेक्टेड कार्बन एमिशन में 1 बिलियन टन की कमी करेगा। चौथा, 2030 तक भारत अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था की कार्बन इंटेंसिटी को 45% से भी कम करेगा। और पांचवा, वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य हासिल करेगा। ये पंचामृत क्लाइमेट एक्शन में भारत का एक अभूतपूर्व योगदान होंगे।
So I think our viewers would have understood that measurement of natural resources is very essential to ensure their sustainability. Now let's understand the role of CAG. Now we know that the Comptroller and Auditor General is a constitutional body, supreme audit institution. What's the role of CAG in compiling natural resource accounting?
CAG in fact has a constitutional mandate to determine the form of accounts. Okay. In this case, since we were signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals, that was a resolution which was sponsored by UN, we became signatory in 2015. And as per that resolution, we are given certain targets which are supposed to be met over a period of time. And that can, and accounts making NRA is one of the targets there. So it is an international obligation when we become signatory. And now here it is that UN has mandated a framework which is called the CRCF framework. Now since CAG has got international relations and we are in touch with most of the other countries who are taking steps in that, they have the benefit of knowledge, international best expertise which is there. So that was needed so that we can comply with the internationally accepted frameworks. So what we did was that we sort of translated those frameworks into tablets so that information can be captured and natural resource accounts becomes reality. GASAB is the Government Accounting Standards Advisory Board. Okay. We make accounting standards for the government accounting as such. So we were best positioned to make steps in that and try and develop those templates in which information can be captured. The advantage was that we will be able to comply with the requirements of the framework, and moreover information can be captured in a uniform manner all over the country so that it makes more sense, and moreover the classification which is internationally accepted can also be adopted so that when the accounts finally come, that becomes the basis of your evidence-based decision making.
Okay, and if you would like to read this document, say the concept paper on NRA, you can go to this website. Please note www.gazab.gov.in. So how many natural resources we would like to measure, and how did we prioritize which one to go with first?
You know, we have to see that how to prioritize. So based on the experience which we gained world over, those resources which are finite in nature, which are going to be exhausted over a period of time and which have a direct impact on the climate as such, were given priority. So that's how mineral and energy resources is the priority for us. And in fact, Government of India in its policy document has gone on record to say that 5 resources would be priority. After mineral and energy resources, it will be water, land, forestry resources, and then wildlife resources after that.
What does an asset account look like in mineral and energy sector?
In fact, with our rate of consumption, what we have done is we have tried to derive that how many minerals are going to be exhausted in the next 10 years or 10 to 20 years or beyond that. So we should see that those resources which are finite and likely to be exhausted earlier, we should start in things of that what would be after that. Do we have alternatives available, or we have to make a plan for importing these resources so that we meet our industry requirements?
So the benefit of NRA would then be that one can take evidence-based decision?
Yeah. In fact, it will help government in making policy interventions at the right time. Let me give you an example. At the moment, our steel industry is totally dependent on the iron ore, which is the raw material. At the moment, we are exporting raw iron ore to many countries in the world as such. Suppose a situation says, after making the accounts, that they are going to be exhausted in 20 years' time. In that case, government will have to take a call whether to export them or to preserve them so that it can feed as a raw material to our industry over a long period of time.
So in terms of the conventional accounting that was happening all these years, say for natural resources, how is natural resource accounting different from the traditional way?
Look, financial accounting only captures something which can be converted into financial terms. If you want to ask the financial accounting figures to say how many forest was destroyed, how much water was polluted, or how much land was misutilized, it will be very difficult to call out that information. The reason is that it is not captured in the finance accounts as such. So what we need to do is that we have certain statistics available, but statistics is only a stock at a particular point of time. So we need to have a flow concept also, that what is the opening stock, what is the addition, what is the consumption, what is the closing stock, so that we can monitor the whole activity from the beginning to the end and then use that information for planning our economic development activities. In fact, conventional accounting was more in terms of financial results. That is the value of goods and services. But what goes into the making of those goods and services, that was not captured. So natural resource accounting will complement the traditional conventional accounting in the sense it will give a more comprehensive picture in terms of that if we produce value of goods and services, how much resources we consume, and because that cost is never taken into account and we take it for granted and it is getting depleted. So when we see a holistic picture, perhaps we will get a good idea that whether this GDP which we are quoting so many times in different forums, is it going to sustain over a long period of time or not?
ESG is more important today than ever for well-functioning businesses, for sustaining inclusive growth in society, preservation of natural resources, upholding the interest of all stakeholders and adding to their growth. An ESG mindset and acquiring ESG competence are essential for business leaders for effective decision making and long-term success.
You are watching Satat Vikas Sabka Prayas, which means sustainable development requires collective efforts. We are in conversation with CA Ram Mohan Johari, Additional Deputy CAG. Sir, we've understood natural resource accounting, why it is important to measure it. How do you see natural resource accounting and the ESG impact?
Consciousness about environmental matters is gaining importance. And in fact, world over, your multilateral financing agencies and even accounting bodies and authorities, they have realized that we should be able to capture this information. Because if we do not capture this information, we would not know that what is the impact of our economic development activities on the environment. So now the whole financing which is happening world over, they are seeing that they should finance those projects which are more environmental friendly and can be sustained over a period of time. Because if they finance a project which cannot sustain over a long period of time, then it doesn't make much sense. So most of the finances world over are getting diverted to environmentally sustainable product. And when you have that accounting here, that will give a readily made information, a reliable information, which would help the financing institutions to manage their finances better.
ESG is very important for the current and future breed of professionals. Recognizing the need, ICAI has incorporated sustainability in its new scheme of education and training. I strongly believe that the culture of sustainability needs to be imbibed in the children right from day one. If that happens, then we will be able to build a sustainable planet and live through our future generations.
To make life better for the next generation, what role do you see premier accounting bodies like Institute of Chartered Accountants of India play?
In fact, Institute of Chartered Accountants was formed under an act of the Parliament, and we all know it came into operation much before the Constitution itself was promulgated. That shows the importance of it, because it's like this, that accounting is the means for providing the information for decision making. And if accounting, if we understand it is a language through which the rest of the world knows what an organization does. So if we do not make that language which is acceptable by all in a uniform manner, then perhaps we would not know the real situation. So if we have to capture this, I think this the boards which have been formed for capturing that, they will frame the standards and the framework which needs to be followed by the organizations.
ESG is one of the most important ingredients for survival as well as success. A responsible society is an ESG compliant society. Similarly, a responsible business is the one which imbibes the culture of ESG. On the lines of model villages and smart cities, now it's time that we come out with the concept of ESG villages and ESG cities.
SDGs define global sustainable development priorities and aspirations for 2030 and seek to mobilize global efforts around a common set of goals and targets. Achieving the global goals would create a world that is comprehensively sustainable, socially fair, environmentally secure, economically prosperous, inclusive, and more predictable. Accountancy profession is recognized to have a crucial role to play in advancing and achieving the 2030 SDGs agenda.
In terms of new professional opportunities, would you say natural resource accounting is one big avenue?
Definitely, this is one area which is going to be very prominent. In fact, those countries who do not or who are behind, they will not get the finances for their development purposes on a world forum as such. And moreover, they will not be able to manage their resources. So this is very, very important.
The moment we hear CAG, the first recall is audit and natural resource accounting. So the format comes from the CAG. Who does the accounting?
Look, accounting is basically an executive function.
Okay.
This has to be done by the person who is the accounting entity or who is managing the organization.
Okay.
So CAG would play a supporting role, in the sense they will just tell that, look, this is what manner in which it has to be done. And if someone has some difficulties or has certain issues, then they can always fall back onto CAG for advice that what it is to be done.
Since ESG, the G component is governance.
Yeah.
And natural resources belong to the government. How do you see governance at center, state, gram panchayat, district level endorsing NRA?
If you see natural resources, although it is within the territory of India, but the laws of the country provide that these resources are owned by the concerned state governments.
Okay.
And whenever these resources are taken out, then certain amount of royalty is paid to the state government, which is a source of revenue to the state government also. So, meaning if you organize the activity in a manner that it is sustainable, then it can be a steady source of income for the state governments also. So, when we do something, we have to do that it is the same for the union, for the state as well as for the local government, because that would give a uniformity in the way things are. Because the laws are such that, like for major minerals, the regulation is done by the union government. For the minor minerals, the regulation is done by the state government, and for the fossil fuels, it is again by the union government. But then the point is that, like coal is a fossil fuel. If you are to mine coal, you will have to go to the concerned state government and mine it from there, and it will be within the territory of the state government over which it has got physical control. So, it has to be done in unison. So, that is how I see it, that it has to be uniform for all the three tiers of governance here.
Technology, they say, sir, is a force multiplier. How are we leveraging technology in natural resource accounting?
The whole contours of the thing get changed when the technology gets involved.
Yes.
In fact, technology can play a major role. Let me give you an example. Now we have got a very good space technology available with us, and organizations like ISRO and National Remote Sensing Agency, they are playing a very vital role because they can map the resources. And there is a concept of geotagging. In fact, we are advising the state government that all the mines which are found all over India should be geotagged. Because when they are geotagged, a specific location can be mentioned there, which gives more credence that it is at this place. And even there is a concept of geofencing, in which what happens when the mining activity happens at a particular place, it is geofenced. So, anything which moves out of that area is actually captured.
Okay.
And in fact, the vehicles in which they are all moving, that is also through GPS you can target. So, right from the point where the actual activity happens till its point of consumption can be completely mapped with the help of the technology, so that there cannot be any leakages in between. And in fact, even the end use can be mapped, so that you know this much you produced, this much you consumed in the industry or household, this much was exported, and this is what the closing stock, because that gives the whole account a complete shape.
So that means we can say another benefit of natural resource accounting is it will prevent leakages, and sometimes in news when we hear about, say, illegal mining, that will also be curbed.
Definitely, definitely, because you will be able to judge that what is the extent of it, where exactly it is happening, so that you are in a position to devise controls to contain any activity of that nature. And the next stage in natural resource accounting would be ecological valuations. Okay. When that happens, that is the time that CS will play a very important role, so that they are valued as per internationally accepted standards.
You're with us on ESG Talk series, and we are having conversation with CA Ram Mohan Johri on natural resource accounting, which is an initiative by Gazab under the aegis of Comptroller and Auditor General. So internationally, how are other countries doing as regards natural resource accounting?
Some of the countries like Australia, New Zealand, and some of the Scandinavian countries have done quite well. The reason was that for them the natural resources are very, very important. Like if you see Australian economy, it is the mineral resources which is the most important for that economy. So they wanted to do it in a manner that they are able to manage it better. That's how they started the whole exercise much early.
So in conclusion, sir, like we discussed the choice between sustainability or extinction, do you think human beings with all the wisdom will choose sustainability?
I'm sure that's the most logical way to go ahead and definitely they should do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are also very optimistic that we will judiciously use the natural resources so that we can foster sustainability. And once again, to come on the program ESG Talk series and guide us more about natural resource accounting. And for this mammoth task, congratulations to you and your team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.